Shuhei, Ikkaku, and Nnoitra. These were the last 3 characters to be confirmed for Bleach Rebirth of Souls, bringing the total roster count to 29 characters so far. Back in July of last year, I predicted this game would have a total of 35 characters, and while that number was an educated guess, now that we're getting closer to release, we can safely say that the final count will be somewhere along that number. Bandai has been revealing new characters every Monday, and from today until the release, there are only 5 Mondays left, so we're potentially looking at a 34 character roster. Of course, maybe they don't reveal characters on the week of release, or maybe they go crazy and announce 3 characters in one go. Who can say at this point? But regardless, we're getting pretty close to the final roster count, which gives us all something of an expectation when it comes to the size of this game. And last time we checked, this was the state of my roster prediction. Shuhei was announced. I did not predict him, but I did predict Ikkaku and Nnoitra, and since we are so close to release, I'm gonna clean this up a bit by moving the characters I didn't predict over the characters whose place I think they're taking. For instance, I think we're getting Kira instead of Captain Ukitake. Xylo is going to take Hiyori's place, and Shuhei probably made it over Yami. And this should give you a better look of who I think is still left to announce. Orihime at the bottom there, the top 3 Espada, Yumichika, and White. That is, if we do get the 35 characters. But Bandai is doing more than simply announcing these characters, they are giving us a preview of their moveset. And if last video we looked at 3 impressively unique and complex characters, this week they all seem pretty straightforward. Now this isn't bad by any means, not every character needs to be gimmicky or complex. You also need to have some simpler characters, some more straightforward characters to give your entire roster a bigger skill range and also to allow more different playstyles. And so let's begin with Shuhei. Shuhei has a unique gauge called the Fear Accumulation. According to the website, this fear accumulates when both his or his opponent's soul gets destroyed. The famous Konpaku bars up there. So the bar goes higher the more you take damage or the more you deal damage. It also increases over time if Shuhei uses his awakening, so despite him being a character that has a unique gauge, this is a gauge you really don't have to worry about since it will just increase normally as you play the game. But it does mean that the longer the match goes, the more the gauge will fill up, and the more fear Shuhei has, the more damage he inflicts on his opponents, meaning Shuhei is a character that gets stronger the longer a battle goes. Fear also influences both of his spiritual pressure moves, but especially the first one, which is a different Haro depending on how much fear you have built. You've got Shakaho, Sokatsui, and Haien. Unfortunately, we can't really see Haien too well, but it seems like all 3 Haro here will behave very similarly. They are all a quick projectile. So even though this move changes, you don't need to pay that much attention to the fear gauge because they're all kind of the same, they might just deal more damage. As for the second spiritual pressure move, it's a counterattack. If Shuhei is attacked while in the stance, he will teleport behind the enemy and hit them with a Tsuzuri Raiden as a follow-up attack. And this move's damage also becomes buffed the higher his fear gauge is. The one move that the trailer didn't show us was his signature move, which we know from the website is Haro number 58. It creates a tornado in front of the opponent. It doesn't have a lot of range, but it lasts for a long time. So it's almost like an obstacle that you place between you and your opponent, and the more fear you accumulate, the more hits and range this move gets too. The website also mentions this move being good to stop zoners, and that Shuhei actually has a flash attack that can block projectiles. Flash attacks are what this game calls the attacks on the triangle button. That's it. Flash attack, flash attack, flash attack. So being able to nullify them with a single button seems like a very useful button to have. For his awakening, Shuhei unleashes his Shikai. As we mentioned earlier, this raises his fear gauge passively over time. So Shuhei might want to awaken as soon as possible. But also his flash attack seems to change. He gains this mid-range attack since his weapon has completely changed appearance, right? So there's a chance that he loses the flash attack that nullified projectiles, though we can't really confirm that at this point. All in all, he has a gauge that goes up as you play the game that makes him stronger. You got projectiles, you've got a counterattack, and your awakening gives you more range. Honestly, he looks very straightforward if you just want to pick up the game and play someone without having to learn a whole gimmick. I think he might be a good character for that. Ikkaku also seems fairly straightforward. Instead of giving him 2 spiritual pressure moves and a signature move like everyone else, it feels like they just kind of gave him the same move just 3 times, over and over. Signature move, Slayer Stance. It's a stance that you can follow up with 3 different buttons. You can follow up with a sweep, with a rush, or with a counterattack. Spiritual pressure move 1. It's a stance that you can follow up with 3 different buttons. You can follow up with a sweep, with a rush, or with a counterattack. Yes, it is literally the same move, but now it spends meter, so in return, the follow-ups deal more damage. Spiritual pressure move 2. It's a buff. Okay, That's different. What does it buff? It buffs the signature move and spiritual pressure moves. So basically, you either want to do the free version, or do you want to buff up and do the free version? Or do you want to use the meter version, or better yet, do you want to buff up and then spend more meter to use the meter version? Ikkaku is all about this stance, at least before he awakens. For his awakening, he releases his Bankai and he gets a unique Ryumon gauge. And much like Shuhei, this gauge doesn't seem like something you need to worry about or manage at all, as it will just make you stronger over time whenever you attack or receive damage. The big difference here is that it only shows up after you awaken, and also it increases as you deal damage, not just when you destroy Konpaku. But that does mean that Ikkaku, much like Shuhei, is going to get much stronger the longer the battle goes. And I don't know if he keeps the stance attacks here. I mean, I can still see them working even with his weapon, but the Bankai being this distinct, I wonder if there isn't a whole Bankai moveset that we don't know about. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Last but not least for today, we have Nnoitra. Bandai did mess up and release his trailer a week early, so we've known about him for a while, but now we also have his profile on the website to fully complete his moveset. First up, the signature move is Hierro. This translates as iron in Spanish. Nnoitra is going to do a quick stance if you let him do it, and he's going to get 1 hit of armor added to his flash attack and his special flash attack. That is, his attacks with triangle and tilt triangle, or so I believe. I haven't played the game yet. After he presses that attack button, that hit of armor is gone. But as you can see, Nell is trying to attack him and she cannot interrupt him. It is a signature move, so he can just get it again even if he uses it, as long as he's got space to activate it, since signature moves are completely free in this game. For his spiritual pressure move 1, we have Guillotina, which is a big downward slash with his scythe. Now, this can be a simple attack if you just press it, or if you hold down the button, it becomes a non-blockable attack. The obvious downside is that it takes longer for the attack to come out, so you give your opponent more time to dodge it, but you can use this to mix them up. And then we have his spiritual pressure move 2, which is this unblockable kick. If it lands, Nnoitra does this whole follow-up attack and deals big damage. When I first saw how fast this kick was, I freaked out. This move is unblockable? No! Like, what do you mean this kick is unblockable? It comes out so quickly. But then I remembered that this game has a universal unblockable move, so if characters are that close to you, you're never going to be safe blocking anyway. Nnoitra just gets a bigger reward if he hits you, because he did spend meter for it. If you think unblockable attacks are Noitra's gimmick, then you are correct. It's the armor with signature move and unblockable attacks. Thanks to the website, we now know that it's not just those 2 spiritual pressure moves, but also his special flash attack, which again is his triangle button while tilting the stick, I believe. So yeah, against Nnoitra, don't block, I guess. As for his awakening, Nnoitra uses his Resurrección, and according to the description, he doesn't really change much, but his moves get much more powerful. In fact, you can see his flash attack here after Resurrección is very similar to his flash attack in his base form, even though he's got 4 arms now. So there you have it, 3 new characters that I think are pretty straightforward, but also unique in their own ways. And I think this week, I apologize, but I'm gonna skip the comments. I was looking through the last video trying to pick a few, and we've got comments looking at future characters like Zalaporo here, kind of confirms Stark, and Unohana must be DLC, which I just agree with both. And then there were a lot of kind comments regarding my voice recovering and thoughts on the new format, and I appreciate all these comments, I really do, thank you. But as far as a comment that would start a conversation like we usually do, I didn't really find anything on those top comments, so I'm gonna skip this segment today. Sorry if I missed your comment specifically, but I also guess it's natural. The closer we get to release, the less we have to speculate about. At this point, we just want to play the game, right? But for more character breakdowns, check out this video with Zalaporo, Komamura, and Kyoraku. Thanks for watching. Bye.